The year is 2020, and it has been a year since the release of Resident Evil 2's remake. Capcom releases their remake for 1999's Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. For old fans to relive and new fans to experience, but how good was Resident Evil 3's remake? Plans to make the remake for Resident Evil 3 began around the development of Resident Evil 2's remake. Capcom had remastered the 2002 remake of the original Resident Evil in 2015. They wanted to complete the trilogy. Although development of Resident Evil 2's remake and Resident Evil 3's remake had begun at different times, the two games began to overlap each other during development. Because both games take place in Raccoon City, the team decided to tie the events in the two games together, more so than in the originals. The process for designing Nemesis went through several iterations, with the team wanting to stay true to the original character. They redesigned the character to look more photorealistic and reimagined. Some locations were cut in the remake from the original game, as the team focused on rearranging this game altogether. The game's storytelling was expanded for a more consistent story. The game takes place 24 hours before the events of Resident Evil 2. Following Jill Valentine, former member of Raccoon City Police Department's Special Tactics and Rescue Service STARS, as she is attacked by a bioweapon, the Nemesis T-Type, designed by Umbrella to wipe out all surviving STARS members. Jill fled through Raccoon City, running into her former colleague, Brad Vickers, who helped her escape the horde of zombies in the streets. However, Brad is bit by a zombie while trying to hold them off during the escape. Jill leaves Brad behind and continues through the streets of Raccoon City. At this point in time, we see resemblances of RE2 and RE3's remakes. However, I enjoy the fast-paced intro to Resident Evil 3. At this point, we know what's going on from playing through Resident Evil 2. It's nice to see the perspectives from someone else in Raccoon City, especially Jill, who was involved in the Manson incident from RE1. Seeing the beginning of the outbreak in Raccoon City is truly interesting and intriguing. Jill makes her way through the streets and is attacked by Nemesis once more. She is saved by Carlos, a member of the Umbrella Biohazard Countermeasure Service, UBCS. Carlos leads us onto a train where we meet Mikhail Victor, platoon leader of UBCS, who reveals their mission is to rescue civilians. However, they have suffered casualties, and they need Jill's assistance in getting the train going. Jill makes her way through the city to the substation, where we find a wounded man who begs us for help, but is shot by a UBCS officer, Nikolai. Jill makes her way to the substation, where she is attacked by Drain Deimos, which are flea mutated by T-virus. We restore power and put the train back online. At this time, we run into new enemy zombies infected with parasites caused by the Nemesis, sending parasites out to bond with the zombie. We return to the train where Nikolai questions our role in helping the UBCS. However, this is interrupted when we are attacked by Nemesis. We escape into the sewers, which if you played RE2, you know is a lovely place to be. We encountered the Hunter Gamma, another one of Umbrella's beautiful creations. We learned some interesting lore of the Hunter's Gamma. We also learned the weakness is fire. Good thing there's flame rounds in the sewer. Upon escaping the sewer, we are greeted by Nemesis, armed with a flamethrower. Making our way to the top of the demolition site, we face off with the Nemesis in our first boss fight of the game. We seemingly kill Nemesis and escape the demolition site. Jill makes her way to Kendo's shop, where Jill tries to convince him to move to the subway to flee from the city. Kendo stays behind, however, and we continue our journey, and we encounter our dear friend Nemesis, armed with... There's one hell of an ammo. Oh my god, what are you pulling out today? Oh my god, an RPG! We follow Carlos through the city with Nemesis in hot pursuit. We finally make it to the train, but Victor orders Carlos and Tyrell back through the city to find the scientist Nathaniel Bard, who claims to be working on the vaccine to end the outbreak. Jill joins Nikolai and Victor on the train. However, Nemesis attacks yet again. Get used to this, by the way. Victor sacrifices himself to save everyone from the Nemesis. Carlos and Tyrell arrive at the Raccoon City Police Department, where we witness Marvin get bit by Brad. Carlos takes care of Brad, and we get the ID card off of Brad and make our way through the train station. We fight our way through the zombies in the station and meet our old friends. Reaching the STARS office, we meet Nathaniel on call, who reveals he's at the hospital, revealing Umbrella is killing off the researchers involved in the experiments. Playing as Carlos gives a different feel to Resident Evil 3. Which Carlos is strapped with an assault rifle, you still have to be as careful with your ammo. Thankfully, Carlos can get himself some hip pouches as well. Playing as Carlos is a nice break in the game. Not only do you have to not worry about Nemesis showing up, but seeing the events from the perspective of another character is truly intriguing, fully understanding Carlos' team purpose in Raccoon City at this time. Jill calls Carlos and reveals that what happened on the train, and now we face Nemesis Stage 2. We finally defeat Stage 2, however, despite our best efforts, he finally infects us. Carlos finds Jill unconscious. Carlos transports Jill to the hospital and hopes Bard will be able to save her. After puzzle solving and taking on Hunter Betas, we learn Bard is already dead, and Carlos learns that Umbrella is behind the outbreak and trying to wipe out proof of the virus's existence. We obtain a vaccine sample and use it on Jill. Carlos links up with Tyrell as an emergency alert goes off, revealing
Residents capable of rational thought are urged to evacuate immediately.
Carlos and Tyrell hold off a horde of zombies, and Carlos takes off to find the government and tell them that they have found the cure. Jill finally wakes up learning that she has been sleeping for 48 hours and that the government is going to missile strike the city. Flees the hospital. Jill finds her way into Nest 2.0, where we confront Nikolai, who basically wants to kill us as we are attacked by Paleheads. We run into Tyrell, who reveals Carlos's plan. As we run into Nemesis and Tyrell is killed, we make our way through the facility, obtain the vaccine, but are attacked by Nemesis yet again. Carlos steps in to help. Nikolai taunts us in antagonizing fashion. We send Carlos after Nikolai and face the final Nemesis stage. We make our way onto the roof and are attacked by Nikolai. Carlos jumps in the way and we shoot Nikolai and Carlos. Joe and Carlos flee in a helicopter just as the missile strikes. So, that's the story of Resident Evil 3's remake. But how does it do overall? Well, as Liam and I played through the game, we realized one thing. The game was really short. Overall, we love the story of the game, but I feel this time around the story was way too short. Now, I do realize the original game was short as well, so I'm not hating on the creators for anything. Our time spent as Jill was well spent. I love Nemesis as an enemy as he got super annoying to flee from and fight. I understand why he exists and what his purpose was, and that he will stop at nothing until his mission is complete. Each enemy brings its own unique changes to how you play the game, and overall, it makes every enemy interesting. For the first time, we see different variants of the zombies and different hunter creatures since the original Resident Evil. Furthermore, Resident Evil 3's remake is truly an adventure. Our time with Jill was cut short with the main story only taking around 6 hours to beat. The continuation of Jill's story after Resident Evil makes for a great story. It ties a lot of things together for the Raccoon City story overall, and shows us why Raccoon City's fate had to be its own destruction. We show how desperate Umbrella was to hide the incident from the rest of the world. And that concludes my retrospective on Resident Evil 3.